Let's dismiss. Hello, my name is Adam. We are here to go page through page, talking about art, sketchbooks, process, life, and that's why I'm here anyway. I'm still figuring the rest out. Welcome. We're going through old books still, and that's cool, mostly because the new books have projects in them that I cannot yet share legally. But that's cool, you know? Sometimes going through old books like this little green goblin here from 2018 shows you how far you've come putting all that effort into your creativity. And maybe you pick up an old drawing, you know? Maybe you pick something up that you left and you make a new painting out of it, a new sketch out of it. That's rad. We all love that. As we know, creativity is not a straight line. It is a noodle. All right. This cover is so nice. It's got like a canvasy texture to it. I think like this AV up here I did with a Sharpie. But you know what? When I start these videos, I always forget how filthy my hands are. And we don't want any of that mucky fingertips on here. So let me wash those up. Perfect. Okay. I'm excited about this book because it's the beginning of our last two game projects that are in it when I started it, but at different points. Creature in the Well and Stonefly. Very different stages of development, but cool, yeah. Let's get into it. Started on August 26th, 2018. And I had just moved to Montreal. I think it was pretty new here. These thumbnails are the beginning of what became Stonefly. The battle utility guard, and I think I was going through these trying to pick quintessential moments for what the story needed. Hangars and tiny robot mechs and giant bugs and all of that stuff. These highlighter sketches that are unfinished are always really interesting to me because I'll keep the highlighter stuff fast and loose, knowing that I'm going to come back to this page later and doodle over some of it. Sometimes when I come back, I only work on one of them, but probably because I'm trying to incorporate sort of fresh eyes into the process. Like, oh, this one was cool, but oh, this one had more of what I wanted. So for here, this was for Creature, and I was trying to think of what the monoliths would look like that the player came back to unlock different parts of the dungeon. And I wanted it to look like a giant hand. So I think as soon as I got that down on paper, I was like, yeah, that's cool, that's enough. And then I drew it again here. And I was trying to find layering of stuff. Like I think these are all brush pens, and then these look like a Craypaw sort of chalky, opaque thing. Entrance was going to be here. I knew we had a bunch of dungeons we wanted to unlock in different ways, let the player unlock, and then this door would cycle and change and allow them to go in different places. And then there was going to be another entrance. So this like janitor's entrance was another option for players to find secrets later in the game, different ways into the temples of the dungeon. These highlighter and pen drawings, brush pen drawings, are of a friend of mine named Jihad from Chicago. I went to school with him, and when I would visit him, we'd just draw while we chatted. This was more of me trying to figure out the insides of the dungeons of Creature in the Well, and I think in this particular drawing, these are like colored pencils over the highlighter being first this pink layer, and then more and more sketches with brush pens, and finally an ink pass at the end. And like this subtle stuff happening here is really what that layering process is fun to find when I'm doing this kind of work. And these were just different, maybe ways the player could pick up their weapons from the game. Showers. The Creature in the Well dungeon was going to be full of a bunch of different adversaries. We weren't sure whether they were going to be robotic or mechanical or bug-like, human. We weren't sure, but I was sketching out different ideas. And then of course, like always, notes. A simple sketch of what the houses in the game might look like. What are the bullet features of the list of the game, narratively, gameplay-wise? Thoughts. This tree
from Ohio that I was drawing was really like such a fun experiment in different layering. Who knows what like a highlighter is going to do over the top of a brush pen? Who knows what's going to happen when this pen is running out of ink and it gets a cool new scratchy texture? That's part of the fun, right? It's just an exciting thing for me, I think, to like discover new ways that mediums will work together. This might have actually not been a highlighter too. This might have been a paint pen. That's why it's like sitting on top of this in such a different way. But you can see as it like goes over the different pens, like it color changes slightly. I think it's fascinating. In Creature, we knew we were going to go inside places, but we weren't sure how we were going to handle them in Engine. And we came up with this idea that we would have cutouts of places, so a player walked into a house and we would just have one room from the top. So I was trying to think of like what these places have doors. Since they're abandoned houses, would the grass and the dirt have like come in to it and changed the way it looks? So these were really fun to do. And sometimes you do a sketch and you don't come back to it, but it still has like a cool look, huh? This must have been like a pretty wide Copic marker that was running out of ink. Let's just get such cool texture when that happens. My sketchbooks are always full of these drawings done while waiting. When I'm out to meet friends at a bar or in transit or anywhere, I have to sit and wait. I prefer being able to doodle in my sketchbook, just doodle what's around me rather than be on my phone. And it's funny to find these drawings of bar tops or vignettes of average objects while I'm waiting for friends to show up. Think about Speed Racer, and it looks like I was using a pen that was not water soluble, because when I went over it with the layering process, it started to bleed, and down here as well. None more you know. Pencil sketches for more Creature stuff. I think these were just half-baked ideas. This is Harold Ramis and John Candy, I think from Stripes. I think I was thinking about the Stonefly crew and trying to find groups of pilots or, you know, comrades in arms that I could reference. I think this is from Ferris Bueller. I know that these were on a trip to Maine because these boats are from the harbor in Portland, Maine. And I just loved this idea of like a school of fish made up of tiny little rectangles. But there's some cool layering going on here again with like a different red pen and some of those brush pens. And this looks like a white opaque gel pen to get those highlights on it at the end. It's cool. Friends from a bar, and it must have been Halloween. I guess since we started in August and we're only a few pages in, this is definitely Halloween time. Pumpkins and hats. And this is again, like it's me trying to do the layering. I think it was using that pen again that was bleeding. But now knowing that that's what it was gonna do, I think like it was the layer underneath some of this blue and this pink opaque gel pen to give these highlights stuff. It was fun to try. Some Brussels sprout critters. Why not? These are definitely Stonefly concepts for our tiny little mechs and what they would look like. It was really inspired by Gundams and obviously a ton of Star Wars stuff, but trying to figure out like if they were going to stomp on the ground and hop like bugs, they would need big engines on the back of them that would push the robot down so it could spring back up. So the whole idea was like the tiny little pilots here would be inside here, like leaping off the ground with these giant engines. When I'm designing stuff, I try to pick a single element that can be the center point of the design and then work around it. I'm not sure that that's always the most effective way to do it, but it works for me. These were designs for the monoliths that are inside of Creature's dungeons at the end. When the player gets to the end of every dungeon, there was like a big machine we wanted them to turn on, activate the tower. And so these were different sketches of how I might build those out of primitives because we didn't have a huge modeling department. And so I was trying to think of ways I could create interesting shapes with just what we had. Notes for the game. These must have been early designs of Roger, the janitor, and Danielle, the blacksmith, who are kind of Creature's two main NPCs. Danielle helps you upgrade your weapons and has created everything in the dungeon, and Roger's the descendant of one of the greatest scientists who created the temple. This is one of those pages in between. Ooh, obviously I did not like this page very much, or I wrote something on it I needed to pull out for later. I think this was when I traveled back to Dallas. I've been really fascinated by giant cityscapes with rectangular patterns and just the way that like visually they overlap and create depth or don't, or betray all the rules of perspective when you flatten them out. Always fascinates me, thinking about the windows. Creature in the Well short comic ideas that I didn't explore very far. This was work stuff, I think, planning out different projects. Oh, and here is the obligatory waiting for friends at drinkery drawing. Actually, this perspective is pretty cool on that. Again, like repeating the different bottles and stuff is really fun to try to draw. And this must have been that group of friends. That these are all animators and lighters and production folks from an animation company in Montreal here. And it's always fun to chat with people and draw them. I think I was trying to figure out what our main character for Stonefly looked like. Her name was Anne, but we did not have any idea how militaristic or how science fiction her outfit is. For a while I worked on the Battletoads remakes. These were just notes, I think, for that. And again, drawings of friends as we go out. This is a doodle from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I was playing at the time. The armor and poses and enemies in that game were super cool to see and to play against. So I was inspired by that. And I think I just kept thinking about them, but was taking them into different directions. These are just, fantasy, medieval Grecian knights with armor, swords. I know this is a D&D drawing. We were fighting a giant robot, and I think we blasted its skull off to find out that it wasn't a robot, but it was like some sort of malformed creature with a brain. And at one point we were on top of it and scaling it and going inside and like trying to deactivate it from the inside. It was so inspiring and exciting that I had to doodle it. And again, with that same process, I think like I didn't even know I was going to draw the robot at the beginning. Sometimes I'll just put graphic shapes down and then turn it into things. And then as the drawing starts to develop, go back over with the same materials and add them in. Like these eyes, there's no way I knew I was going to go that far with that. So I think I put that in later. But since I had the same pen, it makes it look like it was all part of one move. And the way this orange and blue overlap is really beautiful. A undeveloped dragon born. This guy here is called Crowboy. He's a protagonist in one of our first VR projects called Manifest 99. And he rides a train through the afterlife, finding out about people that he's interacted with in his life and learning new things about them. More creature stuff. That orange pen really had like a lot of juice in it. Trying to find Anne still for Stonefly. Sometimes you just got to get like different designs out and just to know they're not the right ones. And friends from Lord William. So this drawing is of the creature from the well, and we were never sure whether we were going to show it or not. And while we did decide not to, Bo and I went back and forth on what it was going to look like anyway, so we would know. How many arms did he have? What did he look like? How was he able to be in so many places at once? So these are some of my favorite drawings that we've never shown before for the game because we don't want to spoil it, but sorry, spoilers. This was like me trying to draw the creature, but with that paint and marker technique. Actually, these are kind of cool. It's like fissures in the ground with that ink. That's fun. Maybe I'll go back to that. Go in the wrong direction. More Anne drawings. This one's Dylan, actually. Dylan's a friend, an animator. And notes. And notes. And drawing some friends from the bar. We do a ton of playtesting on our games, and it matters and helps so much. We love going to conventions like PAX and other things with the things that we're making, but just watching someone get stuck is so helpful. Hearing their train of thought as they play the games gives us so much helpful feedback to make them better. And we were testing, I guess, in January 18th. And the game was going to come out later that year, like 9 months later. Because we knew that Stonefly was going to be in a miniature forest, I had started drawing just a lot of plants, studying botany and figuring out how we wanted to represent them. And this graphic stuff is really still fun. It was really inspired by a illustrator from the mid-century called Charlie Harper, who does this incredible amount of graphic plant and animal wildlife stuff. And so I was trying to figure out how we were going to do that in our game and how we were going to translate that to 3D. But first, just trying to figure out like how much black there was going to be, how are we going to treat shadows, how are we going to handle the translucency of plants, or were we at all, you know? And then back to Creature, Botsy here. I think we were working on some promotional art at the time. This is some fan art from some drawings from Maniac, YouTube, or not YouTube yet, Netflix show. This was a short comic idea I had when I was coming home one night, and it must have been just after January, so the heart of winter in Montreal, where I encountered a group of guys whose car was stuck in the snow, and I didn't speak French and they didn't speak English, and we still managed to get the car out of the ditch by just like working together and rocking it back and forth. And they had one of these like boots you could put under it. Its tires were spinning so bad, but it felt super Canadian to me. So I drew them as I remembered them when I got home and just thumbed out the story of getting the car out. Yeah, we were stepping on this boot, just trying to get the wheels to catch something, and the woman inside was driving and having such a frustrating time. But we eventually got it. It's a fun memory. Some empty pages at the back here, huh? Lists of states, very important. Battletoads notes, Dungeons and Dragons notes, and reminders for myself, always. I'd sometimes write this on the book because these things start to look the same from both sides, and so you never remember which side you opened it from. Yeah, and it's fun to see the edges of it and how worn they get. Sick. I have more of these materials around this time because this book is a little more recent, but I've got to say that I really approach the stuff I use in these books in two ways. The first one is trying to find new things to make marks with, so that I challenge myself to try drawing with a tool that I'm not super familiar with. The brush you use to paint with matters a lot, but also it doesn't at the same time. If you're used to using a pencil and you can erase stuff, then try picking up a pen and taking that away from yourself. See what it challenges you to do. It's like a game I like to play with myself. And the other way that I approach stuff is really just whatever's in my pocket. Every time I go out to draw, I'm carrying 4 to 5 different things there, and when I sit down to meet friends or wait for them, I pull out whatever I've got. That's what I go for. So that's another book down. Thanks for coming around. I have this whole box of old sketchbooks still to go through, so there's plenty more coming. The next one, I think, though, is going to be something I just finished, so it'll be interesting to hop between new drawings after taking all these trips down memory lane. Hopefully, we will be seeing some growth there. Who knows? It's been about 4 years between these books, so we'll see. If you have any questions about process or approach or materials you want to suggest, please leave them in the comments. I love finding all that new stuff. Thanks for taking the time with me on this journey. Until next time, I will catch you later.